Hello, a new mystery, people. The fate of women and children before the Common Era was brutal. Archaeologists discovered an ancient mass grave of women and children. The conclusions of the latest study suggest a deliberate episode of large-scale, selective killing, primarily targeting women and children. A mass grave dating back to the 9th century BCE was recently discovered at Gomolava, a site in Serbia, revealing evidence of lethal violence specifically directed at women and children. In their study, Linda Fibiger and her colleagues analyzed the remains of 77 individuals from what appears to be a single burial event and found that 51.66% were children and adolescents. Of the 72 individuals whose biological sex could be determined, 71% were female. After analyzing the skeletons, the researchers identified unhealed injuries consistent with violence, most commonly to the head, as well as evidence of projectile wounds and defensive injuries in some individuals. Isotopic analysis indicates diverse childhood origins and different dietary patterns among those buried, suggesting that the individuals came from a broader regional population rather than a single settlement or related family groups. Given this, the mass grave appears to represent evidence of an episode of interregional conflict and an underlying aggressive shift in power, violence, and gender relations in the region. Gomolava is located in the southern part of the Pannonian Plain, at a place where different cultures and traditions intersect. During the early Iron Age, communities in the region were undergoing changes and reorganization, making the site a valuable source of information for studying conflict and its broader social context. In its preserved state, the grave at Gomolava had a diameter of about 29 meters and a depth of 4.9 meters. According to the researchers, the grave was an intentionally created, maintained, and protected space at a location that had held significance in the region for thousands of years. Traces of posts were found around the perimeter of the burial pit, suggesting either the reuse of an earlier structure or a modest memorial for the burial, both indicating the creation of a meaningful space that remained recognizable afterward. Small personal ornaments made of bronze were also placed alongside ceramic vessels suitable for storing and consuming food and drink. The grave also contained bones from between 50 and 100 animals, including meat portions from cattle of various ages, adult pigs, and a smaller number of sheep or goats. In addition, the articulated remains of most of a young bovine were placed at the bottom of the burial pit beneath the human remains. This investment of resources and time at Gomolava contrasts with other known mass burials from the early Iron Age, distinguishing it as an exceptional and rich burial site, emphasizing the ritual nature of the burial event and commemoration. A similar mass grave in the region was uncovered in 1954, when 36 individuals, again mostly women, were identified in a pit partially destroyed by river erosion. The dating of the ceramics and general characteristics suggest that the two graves are contemporaneous and possibly from the same event, although this cannot be confirmed with certainty. A previous bioarchaeological analysis of the remains from the 1954 mass grave attributed the deaths to a pandemic. However, testing for pathogen DNA revealed no evidence of infectious causes. The conclusions of the latest study suggest a deliberate episode of large-scale, selective killing, primarily targeting women and children, which may have had long-lasting consequences for the connected communities across the region. The authors note limitations in their work, including the partial preservation of the remains and the need to rely on a subset of individuals for genetic analysis. Further comparative studies of other sites are needed to better understand how mobility, inter-community connections, and violence were intertwined in later European prehistory.
Prevede narod svoj preko pustinje.